Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be analyzing Activision's 1985 graphic adventure game Mindshadow, the earliest game developed by Interplay. After the video game crash, Brian Fargo and his development team found themselves out of jobs. Instead of looking for work elsewhere, they created a small development studio, Interplay, that would go on to create franchises like Bard's Tale, Wasteland, and Fallout, games with some of the strongest storytelling in the late 80s and 90s. First, however, came Mindshadow, a game they developed for Activision. Interplay didn't have any cred in the industry yet, but Activision CEO Jim Levy had pivoted from consoles to computer software hard, and were trying to get as much into production as possible. Fortunately, the team had some experience with parser games and adventures before the crash. Mindshadow wasn't a big hit even for the time, but it did well enough to build Interplay's reputation in terms of future collaborations with Activision. According to the Data-Driven Gamer, it was developed first on the Apple II, and then later released for the Commodore 64, Amstrad, Atari 8-bit computers, PC, and ZX Spectrums, with yet later ports for the Atari ST and Amiga. The game's manual is fairly sparse. There's no in-game fiction or feelies here. We're told that we're waking up with no memory on a tropical island, and we'll be exploring the game world to answer the questions of who are you, where did you come from, and who left you on the island. The manual goes on to tell us about the parser. It seems like a standard verb-noun interface with the ability to understand complex commands, including propositions and even compound orders. They give us a few hints: look at everything, carry as much as you can, though this is a trap, and in some sequences, if you're carrying too much, you can die. Study the visuals, look inside things, take notes, draw a map. We also have a few special commands. Think lets us consider elements of the game to get clues about our past, and Help Condor can be used thrice a game to get clues as to what to do next from a magical condor. I'll be playing the CGA DOS release. As always, when I cover interactive fiction this way, I'll be reading it along as I play, but I'm not going in blind. As fun as the process of discovery is, it would make for a very long video, and my focus on these is on the analysis of the game's narrative elements. We're dumped right in without much more in the way of context, which suits the premise of the game pretty well, actually. You're on a beach with a marvelous and intriguing view of the ocean. You see a hut to the north. You see a shell. Well, let's look at that ocean view. Could it be? Yes, a ship sailing along the horizon. Can we look at the ship? The ship is too far away to see clearly. I like that. We're able to go down another level in the descriptions. You see nothing unusual. And then for the items that actually exist and you can interact with, they didn't bother writing anything. All right. You see a tiny hut in the distance. So in this game, it is one that is worth trying to interact with some of the background elements more than you might have in earlier games. You stand before a primitive, badly deteriorated hut. It is a small straw hut, and I see in the background there's some kind of sign. You're not close enough yet. Fair enough. An old dory lies broken and faded in the sand. It seems that you weren't the first tourist on this beach. Look, dory. The boat is obviously quite old. Its frame of rotten wood and rusted steel is all that remains. You're in the clearing of a small jungle oasis. It is strangely quiet and overgrown with vines and ferns. They seem to be long, strong vines. There's nothing unusual about the plants. All right, let's get a vine. You managed to get a nice, long, strong vine. Excellent. We have our impromptu rope. The island dead ends here at a steep, rocky cliff. Now, this is the kind of puzzle that sells hints guides. We can't tie the vine to the cliff, right? We can look at the cliff. It's a long way down. There seems to be a cave at the base of the cliff, so we want to go down there to get to the cave, but we can't tie the vine. Well, we can, but we have to do is type tie vine to rock. You tie one end of the vine to a large rock and throw the other over the edge. So that works, but where's the rock? There's no rock mentioned in the description, and even if we asked the condor for help, which is context sensitive, the condor sips a humorous little wine. Nothing like a cold glass to help pass the time. Still struggling to get off this archipelago? Remember, descriptions are crucial. Examine and collect everything you can. Run along now like a good sleuth. Jeeb calls me to carcass. That didn't help us either. So how do we know that specifically we want to tie the vine to a rock to progress in the game? We don't. I admit I had to consult a walkthrough to get past this point. Going down. All right, you are outside a rocky cave. Inside, the cave is cool, damp, and rock-strewn. This is another point that I had to figure out eventually. Dig, and you uncover a map. All right, the map here is a lot of symbols. There's a bunch of arrows pointing in different directions. There's what looks like a mushroom or a hut, perhaps, and then there is an X, which marks the spot, as we all know. You collect a small rock from the rubble. Let's go back up. And the reason why we didn't get the shell yet, or hadn't gotten the shell, is because we do have inventory limitations. We can only carry so much at a time, and I don't want to have to leave things in inconvenient places and come back for them later. In addition, it's very possible if we have too much in our inventory to die while climbing back up the vine. So their suggestion that we collect everything is not a good one. A trail marked by an ominous warning sign leads into a forest with some high mountains. And this is where we need our map for. Because this is a maze. One of the types of early interactive fiction game mazes where every room is exactly the same. Except occasionally some of the rooms have quicksand and you die upon entering them. So this map here, starting from the hut, is the only safe way through this horrible maze, which we could either have, had this map for or done through tedious trial and error. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but pressing enter lets you see all the previous text, and pressing it again brings the visuals back, which is a nice quality of life feature there. So we're going to follow the map that we have going north. You are lost in the mountains, east, north, east, south. Oh, wrong way. South, and then east again. You found another beach. This time, however, an old steamer trunk lies half buried in the sand. It is open. Inside is a bottle of rum. Yo ho ho, let's get the rum. Got it. Excellent. The label reads, "We will sell no rum before it's time. The bottle is full." We could drink it, but we need the rum for a puzzle later. And we can go back. There's nowhere else to go, so we're just going to head back to the hut by reversing the directions in the map. North, west, south. And there we are. The old hut has been abandoned for a long time. It is filled with coarse, musty smell of old straw. And hammock. There's nothing unusual about the hammock. Examine barrel. Trash digging, show some dignity. Hey, I'm marooned on an island. What do you want? But I'm glad that it does acknowledge that object is there. I'm not sure what that string-looking thing next to the candle is. I hope it's not important. You strip some straw off the hut wall. There we go. Handle. The candle has been securely fastened to the table to prevent shady characters like you from stealing it. Well, I mean, it is a candle. I can just break the wax and take it, but I guess that's not how we want to do things. Leave the hut. And we looked at the dory earlier, and there was some useful steel in it, so we can get the steel. You strip a solid chunk of steel off the skeleton of the boat with our bare hands, no less. I'm going to take the shell, because we want the shell. If we hit the rock with the steel, which is something the parser is capable of doing, you've started a fire. With what fuel, you might ask? Well, it consumes the straw in our inventory without telling us. So I would have used a little more description there, but, it worked. That's the important thing. The ship offshore sees it and launches a rowboat. When the rowboat arrives, the captain, an old sea dog, says, "We don't take no passengers for free, bud." Go, Captain. He's a hardy seafaring man. You shouldn't mess with him. Talk, Captain. The captain says, "Nobody rides for free." Well, I don't have any grass, so what I will give him, because he is a pirate-looking guy. The captain says, "Now that's the ticket, eh, mate? Come on aboard." The captain takes you to his ship. Your rescue ship is an old pirate schooner, circa 1890. A gangplank juts out from the starboard side. Look at the ocean. The ocean stretches away as far as you can see. You see nothing unusual. Save it. Perched precariously on the end of the gangplank, you watch the rolling waves and you feel a cold sting of ocean spray. Yep. All right, so we're on the ship now. The trick here is that even though it's telling us the gangplank is starboard, we still have to use compass directions. If we type, port, it doesn't know port. It doesn't know nautical terms. They don't know port, starboard, fore, and aft, so we're still using compass directions, which, again, would have been a nice touch. You are on the starboard side of the boat. Entering the sickbay, you come face to face with the ship's curmudgeonly surgeon. The doctor looks quite intelligent. He says that is a nasty gash on your head. And we can't examine ourselves. I've tried. You see nothing unusual. You've stumbled upon the crew's quarters. It is a foul, dank place, but these scurvy characters call it home. You weren't invited. Look, crew. You get the feeling you're not wanted here. Talk, crew. They just stare at you, waiting for something to happen. All right. We will resort to violence. Kicking the leader in the chest, you break 4 of his ribs. The crew slinks back in fear, cowed by your fighting prowess and, apparently, mindless antagonism. Their quarters are your quarters. But this means that we can continue past them without being hassled. Your nose finds the galley before your eyes do. It's a cook's dream. You see a meat cleaver. You see nothing unusual about the fish. Let's eat the fish. A little tuna sashimi. I don't think it was properly prepared. You got a meat cleaver. Welcome to the poop deck. That son of a barnacle-infested bilge captain is keeping lookout. Don't bother me. The Royal Navy is near. I can't stop the boat to let you off. And that's what we need to do. That's why we're gathering all these things, is that we need to stop the boat so we can get off. And I escape these what I assume are pirates. Starboard bow, south, south. You're on the starboard side of the boat. You're on the starboard stern. Abaft, matey. You find a barnacle-encrusted ship anchored, tethered to a rusty winch at the ship's stern. The anchor is controlled by the winch. Unfortunately, the winch is locked by a chain. Cut chain with cleaver. You've done it, Swabby. The winch spins, the anchor slips into the sea, the boat slows to a stop. If we meet the captain again, he will murder us for this, so let's avoid him. You're on the plank. The Royal Navy is here. You can board the ship at the end of the plank, so we can just cross over. You leave the ship onto a waiting Royal Navy boat which takes you to the English shore. You are walking along a pier. Some debris floats nearby. It's a diverse mixture of junk. Let's look at the pier. Nothing unusual. The docks are dark and dangerous, but there are ways out. Airport Way runs to the north, Baker Street to the east. You're making your way north on Baker Street. A dark alley extends to the east. You're in a dark alley. It runs south and west. Wait a minute. This is the sort of place where robbers hang out. Oh, no. You're in a dead end in the alley. A fat man lies in the corner fast asleep. He is sound asleep. Nothing could wake him. Can we? It is like trying to wake a rock. You find a hat and 210 pounds. Well, that's nice. You can't get the pounds. Well, the thing is we already do have them. They're in our inventory, but they are a quantity and not an object. So they're coded distinctly. And I guess we just automatically took them. It's a fine hat. Well, let's wear the hat. It looks sharp on you. Perfect. Back to the alley. Out of the alley. Back to the docks. And south. The coastal fog is cool and thick with brine. An old fisherman is trying to catch his dinner. You see a fishing pole. We will probably need the pole. The fisherman won't let you take it. I can't ask the pole. Ask man about pole? You can't ask the man. All right, well, ask isn't a command, I guess. Can't you see you're scaring the fish? What we can do, though, is we can buy the pole. The fisherman laughs. For 5 pounds, you got a deal. The pole is yours. And I admit that is a bit of a leap. But it's the only way to get the pole from the man. All right, some debris floats nearby. I like that little shark in the background. That's kind of a nice touch. Little animations. You managed to fish out an old newspaper. You got a newspaper. Financier Arkman donates new hospital wing. All right, this seems like a good time to use our think command. A wealthy industrialist. Okay, so we've at least heard of Arkman. Going back to the east. This time let's go north. You're on Baker Street, which runs north and south. Rick's Cafe lies to the east. Let's go to the cafe. Look, cafe. Nothing unusual. Thank you. Rick's Cafe is smoke-filled and crowded. You stop at the hat check room. A pretty woman smiles at you from behind the counter. She is very pretty. That is her characteristic. Give hat to woman. The lady says, don't forget to pick it up on your way out. A waitress arrives and deposits a drink on the table. You're in the dining room. What kind of drink is it? You see a tablet dissolving in the drink. Poison. As you examine the drink, a tiny little man goes running by. And again, not a very intuitive command, but follow man. The little man says, it wasn't me who betrayed you on the Tycoon, then faints. You're in the restroom. What is the Tycoon? A private yacht you are familiar with. All right, so that's our second think command. The pieces of our identity and what happened to us are coming together. You find nothing on the little man. Kick man. The little man is already dying from fright. All right. Back to the coat check. Let's get our hat. The lady hands you your hat and says, "Thank you for eating at Rick's. Please come again." Let's look at our hat. Meet me at the inn booth 11. Again, a very obscure command chain to get this clue. We have no indicate that anyone was trying to communicate with us or was using our hat as a means. But we're supposed to, I guess, intuit this somehow. I'll thank her for the hint with a kiss. The host, apparently her husband, reaches over and decks you in the mouth. "Get out," he yells, but we don't have to leave. And the command, there are no other consequences from this. We can head back inside, leave, try to kiss her again. Exact same thing happens. It's just, a meaningless little goofy response to an action. Which is a nice touch, but it would be nice if it had more of an effect on the game world. This time, let's go up Airport Way. An old derelict reeking of ale and bitters lies in the gutter, mumbling incoherently. Talk man. He says forged airline tickets are but a step away when one knows the byword. Derelict is lying in the gutter. I'm not sure why we need forged airline tickets instead of just like the normal kind. This is, 1985. We don't need to buy an ID to get on an airplane, and we can just walk right up the tarmac. But we're going to apparently need forged tickets. We need to know the byword. How do we know the byword? Well, we pay the guy. Again, a kind of an obscure path to get there, but £5 buy you this. The byword is Chendralt. So there we go. Where do we use this? Well, let's continue up the road. You're on Baker Street heading south. To the east is a dingy store. This is no ordinary store. Its shelves are empty. The seedy clerk eyes you warily. We have nothing to sell, mate. Merchandise is the byword of success. So there we go. That's the hint. This is the guy we buy it from. So let's try Chandralt. He says, "Welcome, I am Grevdan, Master Forger. Airline tickets are £200, mate. Why don't we just buy a normal ticket?" I don't know. But we'll go ahead and pay the man. Might appreciated, mate, and we now have our forged ticket. It's a perfect forgery. I wish there was some indication as to why we can't just go buy a normal ticket. Are we, maybe the police are after us. Maybe we need to sneak on board the plane. Maybe there's somebody watching the actual ticket counter. Just something more for the game to explain why we need these forged tickets. It's a point where a lot of this game falls down, I feel, in missing a lot of opportunities. Is just a little sparse in world building. You're in an airport. There's a plane here preparing to fly to Luxembourg. Why do we want to go to Luxembourg? I don't know. Let's think about Luxembourg. You've been in Luxembourg before. All right, well, let's go there again. You take an uneventful trip to Luxembourg. A plane is here ready to cross the channel back to England. You see nothing unusual. He says, "I hope you enjoyed your flight." Well, I did. It was so uneventful, we heard nothing about it. You're in the world-famous Straßbahn, which runs north and south. A small Tyrolean inn is not far to the west. He says, "How about a delicious pickle?" I like it that it knows when I said talk to the man, I was not talking about the cop. Buy pickle. Munch crunch, that was tasty. Thanks, Mr. Chips. The inn is dark and welcome, but built a little strangely. 99 small booths line the walls. To sit at one, type booth and number. Well, we know we want to go to booth 11 from the message in our hat. Why do we know this? Why did a message in our hat send us to an inn in Luxembourg? And how did we know it was this specific inn in Luxembourg and not an inn in whatever seaside British town we happen to be in? A lot of mysteries in this game. There's a dead man here. You're in a small booth. Well, that's unfortunate. He's dead, all right. No idea how. All right, we need to do some inventory management, so I'm going to drop all. You can see our various things that we still had on us have now been dropped. The shell, the rock, the map, the piece of steel, the meat cleaver, fishing pole, newspaper, forged ticket, which I guess they didn't take the ticket on the plane, and our hat. Well, we're probably going to need the shell yet, so I'm going to take that. Search man, who we just dumped all of our stuff on. That's kind of funny. You find a note and an ID card. Get note, get ID, look it. This is a game in which we can use it as a pronoun to refer to our last noun. It's a driver's license for Bob Masters. I assume that's the dead guy. Think Bob. We should all think Bob. A trusted friend. All right, so we do remember Bob. I really wish there was a little more detail to these remembrances, because they seemed like that could be the most vivid part of the game. But it just isn't. It's just a line. Look, note. It says, Jared is room 207. Good luck. Think Jared. A lowlife you know well. You thought he died in a fiery auto accident. Okay, but how do we know him well? It doesn't tell us. All right, let's go back out. Talk cop. He says, I don't want no trouble on my beat. All right, that's helpful. There's a dead guy in there, but I can't tell you about him, I guess. North. The Strasbahn runs north and south here. A street to the west would deposit you at the bank. And we get a side view of the cop there. If it is the same cop. The Strasbahn has led you to the tourist quarter of the city. The elegant Luxembourg Hotel stands to the west. Ah, we're at the hotel now, no longer the inn. It's important to know. The desk clerk says, Good day, sir. Your room is number 202. The hotel lobby is as stately and appointed as its exterior. A young clerk is half asleep behind the counter. So he recognizes us, but thinks we don't know our room number and need to be told. That's interesting, but probably just a convenience of the fiction. We go up. You're in the hall. The elevator lies to your west. You're in the hall. Room 202 is to the west. 201 is to the east. Suddenly you hear a quiet whir. You're in room 202. See a parchment. Well, what do we do when we hear a whir? Well, naturally, we're going to duck. As you duck, a poison dart whizzes over your head and out the window. Whew, that was close. It looks like it's either an original by Picasso or a finger painting by Charlie the Chimp. You got a parchment. All right. Looks like there are two trees with an X between them. That's cool, I guess. Where did the dart come from? No idea. It didn't come from the door because there's no window opposite it. So it had to come from the painting, I guess. But look, bed, nothing unusual. There's nobody else in the room, nothing else in the room. The dart appeared from nowhere and disappeared. Go into the room across the hall. You burst into room 201, ready for anything, but there's just a man reading The Unbearable Lightness of Being. He smiles benevolently at you. He says, Scram before I call the manager. That's not very benevolent. All right, let's leave the hotel. You're in the mountain wilderness, and this is another obnoxious maze, except this time we don't get a map other than that picture of the two trees. So we just kind of wander around a bit until we find two trees. Let's go ahead and dig. Using your shell to dig, you uncover a leaflet. Get it. Get leaflet. Why did someone bury a leaflet? I don't know. It's an account safety deposit slip for account AN11649. All right. Let's go back to town. Into the bank. The bank is a staid, professional, very old Europe. A clerk stands behind the counter counting money. Talk clerk. Get money. Can't get the money. Oh, man. All right, our account number, it was AN11649. The lady disappears to the back for a minute, then returns with your safety deposit box. She hands it to you. What could be in this box? What is so important that we had to hide the account slip for reasons? The box contains a gun. Fair enough. The clerk says, "Thank you for banking at Luxembourg National." Why did we hide our gun in a safety deposit box and not in our room? I don't know. And then why did we hide the slip? I don't know. It's just a gun. Nothing too fancy about it, I don't think. It's clearly a handcrafted piece, very expensive. Well, maybe it's an antique or something. I don't know. Let's keep going through the hallway. 204 is to the west, 203 to the east. You're in room 204. The room is empty. Look, lamp. Nothing unusual. As you enter room 203, you notice something immediately. It is empty. Look, rug. Nothing unusual. 206 and 205. You're in room 206. It is sunny, cheerful, and comfortable. Look, painting. Same description we got before. All right. So, most of these rooms are pretty boring. Look, hat. Get hat. You don't need the hat. No, but I want the hat. I lost my old hat. I left it with the dead guy. You're in room 207. A man is here trying to sleep. You whip your gun out and fire. As the man's body slumps to the ground, the covers slide aside, revealing a pistol and a message. It says, "Jared, beware. William was seen flying into Luxembourg." Think William. In a flood, your memory comes back. You are William Arkman, a wealthy industrialist. Your evil twin brother Jared has taken your identity. He faked the automobile accident in which he was supposedly killed. He then stowed away on your yacht, the Tycoon, and while far at sea, hit you over the head with a lead pipe and threw you overboard to drown. He then assumed your identity, figuring your body would never be found. Your trusted chauffeur, Bob Masters, discovered Jared's secret and tried to find you. However, before he could talk to you, Jared caught up with him. You have succeeded in reclaiming your identity. It seems the game has ended. Would you like to play again? So, there we have it. Mindshadow. A game in which the backstory is entirely backloaded, not really foreshadowed at all, and revealed all at once in an expository dump at the very end. We're running into the limitations of the screen layout. We have a few lines for text, and unlike some other early games, Mindshadow doesn't want us scrolling very much. Responses are terse, but not so much as the Quest Probe or other Scott Adam games. Again, Interplay is choosing graphics at the expense of prose, but that's entirely understandable given the market at the time. Even keeping that in mind, however, the story is almost frustratingly basic. We escape our island, wander around a bit, put together the pieces of who we are in a way that's not terribly satisfying. A stronger narrative structure would improve the game quite a bit. seeding in some clues as to what happened to us throughout the game instead of dropping it all on us once we won. Tying our victory to the think command as we find clues as to who we are is an interesting choice that doesn't quite pan out. Deja Vu, the ICOM game, handled this better by tying our remembrance to the results of other actions instead of an explicit think command. Maybe if the responses to think were more than a single line long, it would feel a little bit more earned. I do like that the goal of the game is a little more abstract than, bringing someone to justice or finding treasure. It's just to learn something, and we managed to do that. In fact, if you type in all of the think commands at the beginning of the game, sequence break that way, you still get this end screen. You just have to have used all of the think commands. The graphics were the most impressive part of the game, but I think they could have served a larger story purpose. If more of the story were told through the visuals, they wouldn't have need to rely on the limited prose window as much. Another bright spot are the parser responses to minor irrelevant actions. We get more here than I would have expected, and it encouraged me to try more things with various objects. The story of playing the game is frustrating. There were a few points that required difficult leaps of conceptual logic to keep the game moving. The unmentioned rock that you tie the vine to in the beginning, the hidden note in your hat at the cafe. Even worse, there are spots where you can suddenly die without warning. The poisoned dart and the man at the bed, and Jared in bed with the gun at the hotel. If we didn't shoot him right away, he would have shot us. They're not random as the deaths in some of these adventure games, but I strongly believe that a good adventure game gives the player a decent chance to make it all the way through it without a single death if they pay attention. We only survived because I knew about these dangers from early playthroughs. So that's Mindshadow, a mediocre game early on in Interplay's career. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thanks to Patreon and channel supporters Karen, Theo, and Drake Flaz. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a channel member or supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/mcoorlim.